Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. And my name is Rotimator. I'm streaming from Abuja to Nigeria to West Africa to Africa and ultimately the entire world. If you're here this morning, I'd like to say wonderful morning to you. Today is the 19th of March, 2021, Friday to be precise. And the Good Morning Education Show happens Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it's a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show, and we're always excited to come your way to talk to you, to share with you, to learn from you, and to learn with us. And this we do with our analysts and experts, strong voices, fantastic human beings. Because we're joined. This, I want you to understand the show is not complete when we do not hear from you. So please, right now, go to that platform you are, type in your name, type in your location where you're streaming from, and say something to us. Let us celebrate this day with you. They normally say TGIF. Thank God it's Friday, and we are excited. It's another weekend. Please do not hesitate to ask questions as we go on the show, because we have sometimes questions that lead to answers because we're going to give opportunity for answers. And sometimes it helps us to think better, think broader on the perspective of the subject matter. And please do not also hesitate to make your contributions, right? When you have here and there and everyone will have a very sweet cocktail experience of learning. And that is what we are doing on the show today. And that is who we are. I'm excited to have you here. And of course, we're excited that you can make it. We always have our analysts joining us from several parts of the world. And today will not be an exception. I'm going to bring them up one by one. Now we're going to have Fee. Fee, good morning. Fee Faludu, good morning. And we also have Ugochi Opidegu. Ugochi is also known as the Safety Chick. Good morning, Safety Chick. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Rotimi. Good morning, Fee. Good morning to all our amazing listeners and viewers from
And
all
good
over the
morning,
place.
Internet.
Good morning, Ugochi. Good morning, everybody. It's so beautiful to be at the end of another week.
All right. So today we're going to be having a great time. We have them here. Wondering when the guys will show up one of these days to at least show some support. But God's sake, I've been keeping on. All right. So we're going to go straight to the news segment. And we're going to talk about the news. And of course, we want to hear reactions as per the news, right? One of the things that is happening right now is Christians vow to continue occupation of 10 mission schools in Ilorin over hijab. Can I get to hear your thoughts on that? Starting with safety chick, then going back to being.
Okay, so I went to read this story because I was interested in why this occupation was happening. And I realized that the school opened for admission both Muslims and Christians, right? That's one. Also, according to the state government, the schools have been taken over by the government, so they are being funded and staffed by the government. Now, is I don't think the students wearing hijab are enforcing their hijab wearing on all the students. If they are saying that the issue now is they are forcing all students of the school, both Christians and Muslims, to wear an hijab, then I would understand. But what I see based on the stories I've read so far is just that um some members of the public are saying that those wearing hijab should not wear hijab when they are coming to school. Now, before these children got admission into the school, you knew that they were wearing hijab, and it was not stated as part of the school rules. If it was stated as part of the school rules before getting admission, that okay, so if you decide to come to this school, these are the rules, and then the person now comes, that's a different case. But from what I have read so far, that is not the case. So if this was not put as a rule and as a condition during admission, bringing it now would look like discrimination. It would look like marginalization, and that is not good enough. Most especially when it's not that the ones wearing hijab are forcing those not wearing hijab to wear. So if there is no force from one side, it shouldn't be force from the other side, because you knew these things before these people were admitted. If you did not want that in your system, then you shouldn't have opened it up for admission. So that's my own take on that situation. And I want them to just be careful and not unnecessarily heat up the polity and disrupt the education of these young ones.
Fantastic. Okay, Fee, what are your take on that? Fee, are you there? Hello, Fee, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I had a little bit of network interruption. Yeah, I saw a video on this matter yesterday, and it was just saddening to see how things are degenerating. I mean, this is a situation where the things that divide us, we should allow them to also be the things that unite us. For crying out loud, these are children. These are impressionable minds. These are people that are learning what citizenship is about. These are people that are going into the society, and already we are pitting them against each other one way or the other. The parents, the school authorities might be the ones making the noise now, but these children are seeing what is happening, and then by the time they're out of school, they are the ones that will become neighbors with people and can't tolerate them because of what they choose to believe, or because of what values that they have for themselves. Yeah, if the school had issues, well, they probably didn't think it was going to get to the point where they were going to be taken over by the government, or that their founding values were going to change, and so they probably didn't think of amending their school regulations or stuff like that. But now that it has happened this way, what they should be looking at doing is using this as a moment to first of all protect those children. Let those children understand that this is not something that I saw protest. I saw that, and I was just wondering and hoping that this doesn't escalate and become violent and become a case of we losing lives over what? Over dressing. Yes, I understand the uniformity of the school, of what they call the school uniform, and how, yes, it may look to some like, oh, they're trying to force their beliefs on us, and but we should be able to get to the point where we accommodate each other, not tolerating each other, but accommodating each other despite our differences. That's my take on this.
All right. While you were talking, we had Dr. Titi Adeosi step in. Titi, good morning. How are you today?
Rotimi, I don't plan to get a doctorate, but it's fine. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
You're welcome.
Good morning. You're welcome.
And good morning to everyone out there. Ayolu Akoka, good morning. So we're speaking on, or we're analyzing the news, and one of the news that came up again is the occupation of 10 mission schools by Christians, based on the headline, due to this hijab issue.
Yeah. I mean, I was reading the details, and it says that the court says that the school neither belongs to the Muslim or to the Christian missionary. That basis has been rejected in court. So I think my stand remains. If a school developed by Christians push Christian values, make it very clear as basis for acceptance. Then if you choose to go to school, however, if the school is a public school, then it takes a neutral stance. My son's school that he goes to, that is a boarding school, is secondary, and it's a Christian school, and they stated it clearly from the beginning. They stated it clearly that they were going to be fasting once a month. They stated all the things that attending uh, uh, the services on Sundays was compulsory. So it was very clear. Do they have Muslims in that school? Yes, they do. But you cannot say that you did not know that one, it's a Christian school. It's very clear. It's the same thing if you send your children to a Catholic school. In a Catholic school, they have some rules. Everyone must go for mass, whether you're a Catholic or not. There are different times when they stop to do the various rituals that they do. So it's a very clear thing. Now, when I was in secondary school, my secondary school was a federal unity school. However, it allowed for a number of things, but people had to learn that because a lot of it was based on some Christian principles. They did make some adjustment, but not completely change it. So I think the first thing for me is the school a Christian school or not? Is it a public school? And then if it's a Christian school, then I think everyone has to respect the values that they've stated. So that's for me. And I like what Finny said, where she said that we need to, whatever it is that we do, we need to do it peacefully. There should be no violence. It shouldn't turn into a tribal war. We should actually resolve it peacefully.
Thank you so much. I think for those who are using the faith front, especially for Christians, the instruction, let your light so shine, not let your clothes so shine, So if they really are going to be strategic, what they should be doing is to let their light shine. And sometimes when you get into such quagmire where, yes, you are a mission school by startup, by structure and name, but by takeover by regulatory bodies, which government is saying that, look, yes, you're a mission school, but we took over your expenses are running, you will not return it to your original owner. Therefore, we have a say. However, it's a gray area. Now, are they saying they are permissive or are they saying that they are invasive? Because it's very, very, very thin line to be permissive or to be invasive. Meaning that, okay, it's probably that the hijab wearing has always been there, but there's something that's causing the uproar. And sometimes there's no smoke without fire. So you find out that some people are shouting, maybe because of something that is subtle that we don't know about. But regardless of that, I think we should be wise as serpents, harmless as doves, And at the end of the day, the right side is always going to be the side of peace, the side of caution, the side of progress, the side of tolerance, right? So, like everybody has said, so we wish them the best. Yeah, that's what we need. Next news says SBMC created to support schools. That's Lagos State is in the news now. SBMC.
So what the SBMC is called? It's called School-Based Management Committees, and the idea is just to try and create committees to provide support to schools around their communities. So almost as if leveraging on the fact that the head of a school in a community, especially a public school, tends to have a bit more influence in the community because a lot of the children of the community go there. So the SBMC train the various principals of the school so that they can go into their communities, set up this school-based community. I think it's a welcome development. I think it's a good one. In the end, you can't progress. School is not on its own. It doesn't just stand in isolation, especially when it's a key element of the community. So, for me, I look at it as a community engagement, parent community engagement tool, and I'm hoping that it will also help. You'll be amazed that, so when the school is also having some challenges, you'll be amazed that the community can rally round there. So that's the really the main drive behind it, is right, that the school is theirs and the children are in the school. So it's just a let's do a bit more stakeholder engagement. So well done, Lagos State, and we pray for its success.
Yeah,
The success is
yeah,
in
I
the,
agree.
yes, safety Chico and carrier.
Okay, yes, I agree with that, because when the members of the SBMC are brought from that same community, it helps them to take ownership. It helps them to create that stakeholder engagement that would ensure ownership of even the parents from that community. And it also helps them to be able to identify unique challenges for that community so that it can be solved. Because it's one thing if somebody from outside is coming to tell them what to do. But now, when you are from the community, you see the realities. You know what the students, the teachers, the school, what they go through in delivering that service on a day-to-day basis. So you are better able to come up with solutions that would favor your unique setup. So it's a really welcome idea. And I hope that it is maximized, it is used as it is supposed to. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose of having it.
Okay. Um, Normally, I would like to be neutral, but I've also seen that while we try to show landmark success with milestones, we must be careful that we're not instituting things that keep on moving far away from our realities. Sometimes I notice that we tend to try to score points with, oh, we've been able to do milestone things. At the end of the day, we are not just reinventing the wheel, we are disintegrating the wheel. I would like us to move beyond scoring points as to landmark titles to really repositioning things within the public space. And that will really go a long way. So I hope that in the days coming, we have that integration, because it seems like everybody wants to just, look at what they can put up behind their names and do stuff. But I hope that that doesn't limit it to that. All right. Next news. Why teachers should have dress code, says stakeholders. Dress code in schools. What are your take on that?
This topic.
Why are
you
you
know,
laughing?
the thing about dress code is that it depends on how wide, broad, or narrow it is. Um, I've been in organizations that they have very broad dress codes. I've also been in an organization where they have very narrow dress code. I had an organization where they insisted on us wearing white shirts every Monday and all that. Honestly, after that, for years, I hated white shirts. I'm telling you, I hated white shirts for so long. I'm just recovering now. I'm buying, you know, just that trying to put people in a, because they were detecting the colors. I see a lot of banks too that you go, you kind of know that they insist on white shirt with red tie or blue. Everybody has this sober look. There's no room for our expressions of our individuality. So having said that, so those are some of the, I'm not a natural rebel, but those are the kind of things that just bring out some of it. I never thought of, I had no issue with white before, but when they now put me in that straight jacket, it then just brought out some of my rebellion. So I think for me, when I think of dress code, I also want dress code to be broad. What's acceptable, what's not acceptable, rather than it being very narrow or dictating corners. So we need teachers to be professional. Honestly, I agree. There are some dresses that are just not professional, and you know that children will pick up from what what you're saying. So if you say that it's not important for me to have some basic confidence in the way I look, then they carry it on. If you can come to school looking anyhow and tattered, they carry it on. But having said that, like I said, it needs to create a balance so that one, it doesn't make
Don't
you
become
spend money.
oppressive.
It doesn't become oppressive. Also, doesn't make you spend money that you don't have. So that's that's what I'm saying. So children should look up to the teachers as role model. So it's important that they are very dressed, decent, modest, professional is what I would say, and then put broad rather than very narrow. Because honestly, if you
Okay.
go somewhere, the teachers are all looking somehow. It also tells about the kind of school you carry your
Yeah.
kaya and be going
It will be
somewhere else.
drab. Yeah. So as when I read that article, what I remembered was I remembered our own rules in the airline. And you see, that's because it's an airline. So certain things had to be regulated. But you see, even across the airlines across the world, I could see how even our own in Nigeria was different from other airlines. So for example, for colors, we are not allowed to use colors except hair colors that are complementary to our skin tone. So you can see that even though that is sort of restrictive, but it's still saying you can use colors, but it should blend with your skin. It should not be out of place, basically. You cannot use green hair and come to work, but you can use maybe a goldish brown because it's closer to our own Nigerian skin tone. So you can then also for nails, we also had colors, so natural colors or red, natural looking colors or red. And when you say natural looking colors, there's a variant there. There is from the nude brown to pink, and then of course red. So I think that having codes are okay, but again, it should not now be so restrictive and oppressive that people's individuality cannot be seen. And um at the end of the day, what it now even boils down to is modesty, because there's a way sometimes you see, okay, so I had to take part in a teacher training program one time, and one of the teachers that came to class, the dress she was wearing was really body hugging, and because she had really extended features, so it made the dress to always ride up. Now, if a slimmer person who didn't have all her body features was wearing that dress, it would not have been noticeable. But because of her own body structure, so I think again, teachers need to know what's your body type and how can you choose your own dresses that they are modest, they're beautiful, but then it's not now connoting something else so that somebody does not pick on you. So at the end of the day, it's about you also being your own personal, should I say, balance. If you know that when you bend, for example, half of your body is outside, or when you are walking, you always have to pull down, pull down, pull down, then that already tells you something. You don't need anybody to tell you that yourself. You should know. So again, it's self-regulation. And then of course, having just broad guidelines without necessarily becoming oppressive and not making it difficult. Because if you not tell the teachers everybody must wear a suit, what of those that cannot afford a suit? What of those that they are fine with just getting just nice shirts and skirts or pants, and they are still able to look good and moderate? So we have to try and ensure that these codes don't now become burdensome on the teachers.
All right. Comments. Good morning. Good morning. Alabola, me thank you for joining. Tochi Daisy, thank you for joining. So let's move to the next one very quickly. There's something that will catch your attention. Speaking about federal government enrolls 924,590 out of school children in Nigeria, almost 1 million.
That was one of the most interesting news for me. And my worry is when people bring out figures and we don't have corresponding information to back it out. So as I was reading the details of the note, so if you had told me you did this 924,590, why not break it down from when now? So which states, But we just have the figures. Yes, now. So which states are they enrolled in, so that we understand? If you go back further into the news, it now says once one of the states claimed that they've done very well in getting their out of school, they've done more than 50%. Yeah, break it down. Where are they? Because they're just trying to, like Rotimi said, when you have a program and you're trying to promote that program as the better education program, because they're saying, oh, because they're giving children, feeding them, there's enrollment. But let's be realistic, right? And which is what UNICEF has been saying since. UNICEF have been saying that we had this issue before the pandemic. When the pandemic happened, what happened? That even those people that didn't have issues before have suddenly fallen. Those people that were at the
Yes.
borderline have fallen into the issue. So before I was a nanny at some house in BGC, I was sending my children to school, managing to pay disposable money. Then COVID happened. My owner said that they didn't need the external people in the house. I suddenly don't have a job. So my children have moved from that who were in school to suddenly who are out of school, because I now can't afford it anymore. So, and it's that balancing of things, because one of the news yesterday was saying how, was saying they're worried about the number of people, young girls, that would then be getting married during this period. Because suddenly, when the parents have nothing, some of them is to say, okay, how do I unleash this my body and get them married? So I'm a bit worried about these figures, because if you now say 94 out of the out of school children have been enrolled, what happened to those that were enrolled before that have now fallen out? I'm sure these figures are more than the figures, but we don't have a breakdown of these figures. We don't have a breakdown saying this is where in which states, in which local government, so that we even understand. Yes, this is where, because we know that even the people that are currently in school, you see a lot of the pictures that are going around social media, the condition of some of these schools. We know that we've not increased existing infrastructure. So how are you absorbing these people in? So that begs some of the questions, because 900, almost a million is a lot. Because when you look at the average school that is large, if it's not a public school, when you look at the average school that is large, maybe they have 1,000 students, and that one is a massive school. So this almost a million is a lot. So where did they put those people? Over to you.
All right. How poor nutrition affects? We've talked about this yesterday. I think we should just move on. And a particular state is doing something. They're honoring teachers, which is actually Lagos State. It's a district in Lagos State that is doing that. What's your take on that?
Honor for teachers. Honor for teachers is not something that is very, very common until either the teachers are dead and then one of the students hears that, oh, that person was my teacher and he was excellent, he was this, he was that, or they become so old that what we're doing for them at that time is not really meaningful to them anymore. So if at this time, either teachers in service or fresh out of service or not have been out of service for too long, but that the honor makes sense to them. If it's happening now, then yeah, it's worthy of note, it's worthy of commendation. It's encouraging to those in service. It's encouraging to those already out of service, so that also I didn't just put in all the hours for nothing. If other people, other professionals are recognized and honored in their systems, in their profession, then why do we leave teachers out? Why? Somehow I feel like teachers are some of you just expect teachers to adjust to everything, to anything. You just throw at them, adjust, adjust. So if this is happening and teachers are being honored and being recognized, and I hope it won't just be something that is done in the privacy of their cubicle of their district, but something that is given prominence and people get to know about, then it will be encouraging to others who are considering going into the education industry, into the education system, and realize, oh, okay, so if I put in the right work, if somebody will notice that I'm doing something right. Everybody needs encouragement. So for me, this is a good one.
Any other person?
I think they've said it all.
Okay, they've said it all. Thank you all for that. And that takes us to the subject matter of today: standardized testing and a fair evaluation of abilities. Standardized testing. So let's see who we're starting with. Let's start with Ugochi. Standardized testing. How far? What's your take on it?
Why are you starting with me, Mr.
Ah, don't want me to start.
Well,
Right.
the thing is, standardized testing is just the reason. I know that many people think that standardized testing is unfair because it doesn't really should I say, give everybody an opportunity to shine in their areas of strength per se. But it's just that, because of the system that we operate, something has just got to be used to ascertain people's abilities at a basic level. And that's why this standardized test exists. So until we're able to come up with something more that can, should I say, cater to the different strengths and realities of the different personalities that we have. Standardized testing is just an effective way of, should I say, measuring everybody's ability across board. Personally, I do not like it because, for example, those of us who are not so great at maths and who have to always write a variation of maths in this standardized testing, it will not make us look like Olodo when we are not Olodo. But again, with standardized testing, you have the opportunity to practice as much as possible before you have to take those tests. So yeah, that's where I'm at on standardized testing. Maybe as I listen to others, it reminds me of something else, then I'll add.
Olodo. Oh my goodness. Yes, Sophie, what's your take on standardized testing?
Standardized testing tests along the lines of um, set down parameters. It's not really about, it's not testing really what the children know. Is a test of, can you meet up to the standard that I have set? That's really what it is. So it's not really testing the abilities of the child. It's just wanting to see, if I put you in this, if I have to test you along this set of standards, are you going to be able to meet up to it? That's really, and like Ogochi said, it's not only in math. Many times, math is the fear of students. But there are students who have problem with language. So they know what they want to say. They're having interference, they're having mother tongue interference, they're having translation interference, and they find it difficult putting what their thought is. They find it difficult passing it across accurately, passing it across just the way it is on their heart. So sometimes it's not just the math, it's the language, and then you subject them to having to go through standardized testing in marking parameters of structure, of punctuation, of they don't have a hang of these things. And then results are out, and we say, oh, they're the low performing students, or they're unserious students, or somebody is very good with cramming. So he's been able to put everything to the last comma and full stop, and is able to regurgitate everything, and then they're termed as the better performing students, as geniuses, as meanwhile that really is not it. By the time they get out to the field to test their knowledge, then you realize that the the testing parameters was just was just a platform to name, to just to break people, to cut people along the lines of, oh, you fit into this category or you fit into that category, and really it's not who they are. So yeah, I would make a case for not taking standardized testing out completely, but having a hybrid of a test of both skills, of interpretation, of all the other abilities we really want to know, and then having a benchmark for grading.
Thank you so much. Titi, are you a fan of standardized testing?
Huh. I will say fan. No, I won't describe myself as a fan, but I would say it has its place. I think the major issue with can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I think the major issue with standardized testing is interpretation. Because they use one brush to just sweep it. They interpret the summary rather than the details. So, I think my best way to describe testing is that picture where they show a lot of animals, doing a race. And they now say this is what education and standardized testing is. It means that we are all different. But when we interpret standardized testing and say, oh, because safety chick is better because she got 8 A's and 2 C's, as against someone that got maybe 2 A's and 3 C's. What's the interpretation? The interpretation is that safety chick kind of has a balance in terms of her skill set. But the other person is very good in a particular area. And the important thing is that we're not trying to build people of all balance in all areas. We're trying to build people that where they excel, and they can be okay in a range of places. So I think that's really when you look at standardized testing, is really a lot of the interpretation. So when schools are doing it, they are putting and saying, oh, how all my students are doing that. But that's not how human beings are. We all have different skill sets. We have areas of strength. We have areas that are not our strong areas. And what we should be telling people that it's okay as long as you have the base. It's like saying that a guy is not brilliant because he doesn't speak good English. He might be brilliant, but English is not his mother's tongue. English is not his area of strength, so it's an area that he's not strong in, but in this particular area he's strong in. So when I look at standardized testing, I look at it a lot as interpretation, especially when it is summed up. But if you do standardized testing whereby there's math, there's English, there's science, and we're saying that, we're trying to interpret what it is telling us. So it's telling us that, safety chicks is very comfortable in these areas. And an area where she's okay in, she meets the average. She's not, she might not be a strong area of strength, but she meets the basic minimum, which is fine. Then it's okay. But when we interpret it the other way, then we start having some of the cons of standardized testing. It then puts everybody in a single box. It then creates the anxiety that people have. And then remember that even when you have a subject, we can like and excel in different angles of the subject. So I might be studying English, but you know what? I'm very good in essay writing and all those other, and maybe some other areas I'm not fantastic. But you know what? In today's world, I have a Grammarly to help me with my spellings and to help me with formatting the document and other things like that, because my real creativity is in forming the stories. So I think we need to move more to breaking down the interpretation. So you don't say, oh, this person doesn't come away or Lodo because she didn't get all A's. They start breaking down the interpretation. It just means that Rotimi's area of strength is this. He's okay in this area. He meets the minimum required in this area, because what you want is that the person meets the minimum required for communication, but the person's area of strength is in the arts. The person's area of strength is in history. And now that we are in a world that shows that people can be so many things, I think, which is why there's a push, but there's just too much pressure from parents and schools when they look at it as a cumulative. I think the other thing is that when you look at it as a multiple choice, when you have a multiple choice, what it means is that some people are very good at guessing. Some people can be good at elimination method without actually knowing the content of what it is. So, which is why when you want to know more about people, you ask open-ended questions. So I think it's a lot of those things. Also, the pressure it puts, the way it impacts your confidence. So, safety chick here is saying she's not good in math, and why is she saying that? It's because of a scoring
Exactly.
that has put you in a box. But that doesn't mean you're not good in maths. You're running your own business. Yeah, you have some bit of maths that you're using every day. Do you understand? When money is not complete in your account, you're
Yeah.
using maths, Eh? But they put you in a box to let you know that because you did not get an A, because you did not get the whatever, then you're not good in maths. You have the basic skills, and that's really what is important. Your areas of strength are in other places. And then the other last major disadvantage of standardized testing is that it forces us to teach to a test. Do you understand? You teach to a test. Now, there's some people that
Yeah.
are very good in a subject, but when you ask them in a particular way, or they're not familiar with the format of the testing, then they are slower in answering the questions, which means they don't do as well. But when you sit down with the child, you know that the child knows it. But, because teaching to a test is what makes people pass, let's be honest. A lot of schools, remember that the idea of test is to test your knowledge and ability. But when we have all these exams coming up, we then just keep on practicing back to back. We teach them to pass the test. I know that when all these Cambridge exams are coming up, checkpoint exam, a school will close down all the other subjects, and they, for a particular weeks, they'll just be going back to back on teaching children to pass the test. So they're just going through past question papers and all that. I'm not saying there's not room for practice, but we then start teaching to pass a test. It's the same thing with our universities. You know what the lecturer wants, so you do to pass the test. Do you know the subject? No, but you know his testing scheme and the way he likes his answers. So those are some of the disadvantages of it, where we then put people to pass the test as against what a test is. A test is for me to assess where you are and what you know. So it's all those things that make people start saying get rid of standardized tests. I think we need to do the balance, because either which way, in anything we do, we always need to be able to assess where are people. Do you understand? It's like your staff at work. What do we do? Appraisals. Appraisals is in quote like a standardized test that you use to assess where are people. The only difference is that it's not multi choice, especially when you don't work in the ministry. It's not multi choice. It's open-ended question asking you what are your achievements, what did you do, and what do you think you need to work in. So it's the same. Everybody, we need to assess people. So it's just saying, how do we balance the assessment? How do we balance the interpretation of it? And how do we avoid the labeling? Just because you're not good in this area doesn't mean that you're not intelligent. So just because someone is not good in science doesn't mean the person is not intelligent. Just because the person is not good in maths doesn't mean the person is not intelligent. So I think it's all that labeling and all that categorization that comes out of the standard test that we need to do better on.
All right, thank you very much.
Is it possible
I
to
also
even have this standardized test in a way that there is one for people in the sciences, there is one for those in the arts, and just separate it so that people can be tested according to their abilities or something? Is that even possible?
I mean, the exams, you see, because they make noise about maths, English, and science. When you take IGC and all that, it tests all the subjects. So some people are, getting top country award in a particular subject, in history, top country award in religious education. It's just that when people are celebrating it and you say, my child got top country award, you say what? Religious education. Not in maths, not in science, not in English. So it's the interpretation of it. So it's in even when apart from common entrance that is checking common entrance, can I say it's checking for
aggregate.
A total aggregate. That's that's where it is. It's in that total aggregate. That lumping everything together as against looking at it as individual. So a guy is okay to enter secondary school. It's just that he needs more work in his maths, which is fine. You know, it's okay to enter secondary school. It's just that he needs, and that's why it's important we don't aggregate. You know, that's why it's important that we balance. I also feel that when we are balancing admission, we should balance it with the person's past records as against a one-time, one-off, because it could be a bad day. Oh boy, if my son
Yeah.
wakes up in a bad mood, that I can almost tell you the result of the test. Do you understand? I can almost tell you, you know, when he's not in that mood, you know, when he's, you know, especially my younger son, when he's not in that mood, my older son, mood or not mood, he wants to pass, he will pass. But my younger son, a lot of it is driven by his mood, whether he's feeling good with himself that day, whether he's feeling like a genius that day. You know, so when you do that exam, it's a want. But when you look at the person's past records, you can then see that the person is an okay student. So I think it's also important that when we are evaluating things, it's the same thing when you do an appraisal, and then the person just did one bad project, and you use that one bad project to paint it, forgetting that under normal circumstances, this your staff is very hardworking. You know, this thing was a real
Yeah.
mess up, but the guy is actually very hardworking. So you can see where we put the balance. So I don't use that last project that he did as a one-off to now, you know, give him his report card. I said, you know what, a one-off, it's something that he needs to avoid, but the guy is hardworking. The guy is a correct guy. You know, and that's where I feel that we need to balance the interpretations in terms of standardized testing.
Thank you so much. Standardized testing. I also want to pick a point from what Safety Chick said. When we look at it, science, commercial, I think there's also something subtle that we pass across. That if you're not in science class, you probably are less, as if science class is a bit more elevated. I don't think so. I think
it's the standard of intelligence.
No, it's not. It's not so. It's not. It's not so. It's just. It's just the part of the problem we're trying to say that has to be fixed. Number two is that standardized testing really is benchmark on certain things, on the premise that the learning experience and the learning outcome should be on the same common denominator. So, but what we have is the learning reality from A and B are not the same. Even if you're checking commercial students, the learning reality are not the same. You're checking the kind of schools that they are in, the learning reality are not the same. So that's the real major problem with rote learning, because by the time you are teaching someone just to be able to pass an exam, all the experiences and reality that should sum up with making that person, freely interact and interface with that subject would have disappeared. And I normally tell people that one of the things that they need to recognize is that for you to remember something, it's not because you've just been taught about that thing. Retentive memory has a lot of things to do with, the experience of the class, so many things. Even the fact that the teacher's outfit can enable or prevent retentive memory, the noise in the classroom, the distractions, the illustrations. And these are things that sometimes people do not explore. And so it becomes more tedious to learn how much more to respond to return what has been learned, really. So standardized testing for us, education in Nigeria and Africa, must be based on the premise that the teaching experience is the same, the teaching quality is the same, and the learning outcome is the same. Until then, we'll just be doing a mechanical tug of war. The survival of the smartest, or the survival of the of your remembrance or your memory. So I think if we want to continue this way, we just need to start teaching the children brain power, how to learn how to use your brain to memorize, how to learn how to use your brain to analyze and to also retrieve. Once you do that, you don't need a child to read books. All you just need to do is make the child so conscious of the environment that the child knows how to recall numbers, recall scenarios, and the child will get A1, but will become a monster at the end of the day because the child is empty, right? Good for exams, but not great for knowledge. That's really what it is. All right. So I would like us to give our counsel to regulators of exam bodies and to regulators of administration of education in different states across the country. I want us to hear. Let's give concerns. Let's give counsel better still to them. I'd like to start with Finn. What's your counsel to regulatory bodies? Going forward, what is the innovation or adaptation that should be engaged?
Okay, there is a need for regulatory bodies to rejig the testing system. It doesn't have to be the way it has always been. A ready example that comes to my mind is when I was in the classroom, one of the ways we had standardized testing, but in a different way. So it wasn't a thing of right, wrong, right, wrong, right, wrong. And at the end of the day, we tell you, oh, you got this over this. No, it was giving their questions in the different subjects. They take the concept and they express it, they explore it and express it in their own way. So some students will decide, oh, I want to answer, I want to respond. It wasn't just that, it was their normal assessments or their periodic assessments. So they could decide they wanted to respond in a PowerPoint. Some might decide, oh, I want to express it in a poster. Some in building a model. Whatever the child felt comfortable with, or however they felt they could pass across. Some would answer the questions like an experiment and bring it to class, and that's what they are graded on. So there was a standard for grading. We had rubrics, we had checklists. Oh, this has to be in place. I think it's high time the regulatory bodies began to look at these things and downplay the, oh, you have 100%, you have 70%. No. How is this person able to apply the knowledge? All we should be looking at is the application of the knowledge that is learned while it's that has been taught and learned. And then we're able to say, yes, truly education has taken place. Truly instruction has taken place. And things like this come with us broadening our horizon and stuff that we know in these areas. So it's going to take the bodies getting out of, oh, this is our comfort zone. It's just okay. It's worked over the years that we have percentages. This is the cutoff and staying there. There's so many children who haven't gotten into schools, maybe JAMB, maybe common entrance, all of that. Not because they're not intelligent enough to get in, not because they're not smart enough, but because the testing parameters have cut them off. So we need to begin to look at this, at grading differently, at evaluation differently. Yes, definitely, there's a need for the learning process to be evaluated, but how it is done is what we need to review.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Gochi.
All right, so I totally support what Finn said, because the fact we've been doing something like that for so long does not mean we have to continue like that. The world is evolving. We are seeing changes here and there, so we might as well have some changes also in the way we do this standardized testing.
Hello. Hello.
I'm done, sir.
That was very fast. On standardized way.
Yeah, because I don't want to repeat what Finn has said.
50J. Don't be a load.
It's true now. So that make you feel like an olodo when it's not as if you're an olodo.
Load. That is a load. All right, we've had a great time today. Everything we've discussed today, I just believe that it's not really just about the subject matter, but about the subject reality as well, because these are the things that combine, or these are the things that make up for a vibrant education. Have you noticed that in other climes, it's almost natural for you to finish your first degree and naturally move on to your next degree. But for our climb, as in from people have sampled experiences, for apart from those who are looking at doing something outside the country, it's almost like, man, I'm done. So your graduation or your final year, you take the word literally, final year. Sometimes it's some people's final year for learning until life knocks them and hits them before they now start relearning. But it's their final year for formal learning. Why? Because the learning experience has been so tough on the average student in terms of assimilation, in terms of teaching, in terms of experience. The things you had gone through, it's almost like you were raped in some cases. Going through university is almost like going through a rape experience, because you don't want to think about it. You've been hurt, you've been abused, mentally, physically, sometimes intellectually. Look at the conditions with which we sat down to learn, and we paid school fees for. Sometimes you have overcrowded lecture theaters, and the lecturer is just going on, and then people say that's why there's a difference between lecturing and teaching, as if you're still not offering value, as if you're not offering service. And the university system does not hold their lecturers accountable. Do you understand? And you've paid to that service. I just believe that it's time that we do something about it in society. Well, that is what it is. We'll come back next week and have a great time on the Good Morning Education Show. And I believe that it's going to be always a great morning for you guys and for us as well. So, Payne, I want you to take the sign off as we end the show for today, and wish the people out there a great weekend experience. Payne, over to you.
Okay, so as we go into the rest of the day and look forward to a great weekend, a relaxing weekend ahead, from the Good Morning Education Show, I like to say it's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. Bye.
Fantastic. Thank you. Bye-bye.